joys. The joys of audio. Yandu says, there they are, right? I think we're coming in a little hot, but I think that's going to work. We got 3 microphones in front of us.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. Brody came to say hi. Okay, everybody, welcome. This is our Adventure Talk stream, as usual, with sound problems to start. You can always look forward to that. Literally, everything was working beautifully. We went live, and everything fell apart like a house of cards, like the house of cards that it is. So yeah, this is our casual talk about D&D stream. We have our wonderful guest Joseph here, or Gnomes, as you may know him from Casters and Castles. He is their game master over there.
You're so cute.
Just quickly before we start in, I just wanted to do a quick shout out to a few things. So number one, we do our regular D&D stream. That's kind of what the channel's based around. We do that on Wednesdays, 6 to 10 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We also have on Mondays, same time, 6 to 10 Mountain Standard Time. It's Alex and Dan do stuff. So currently we're playing like games, like we're doing a Pokemon Nuzlocke. We also talk about D&D stuff, like the other last stream we had. We talked about D&D 1 and the new Unearthed Arcana that they released. So if you like that kind of stuff, come pop in on Mondays, and most importantly, come pop in on Wednesdays to see our D&D as well. And this is our Adventure Talks that we do once a month, and we bring on other people in the D&D community.
And Gnomes, you guys also stream on Wednesday, right? You want to shout out your schedule? I think you have something after this, don't you?
Yeah, actually, my buddy. So I'll run through everything. Casters and Castles. First off, we are a tabletop actual play stream and community that focuses on bringing esports talent, so on camera, on the mic esports broadcasters to the role-playing table. Currently, we have Coriander Society Adventures on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. and that is a genre-bending, dimension-hopping mishmash 5e campaign. On Wednesdays at 6 to 9 Pacific, we have Book of Dawn Ioth Academy, which is a magic school campaign set in our homebrew world of Anakra. And then currently we have Curse of Tamrian, which is a campaign that my co-DM Ninja Man Matt runs with our community of supporters on Fridays and Saturdays until like March. Time tends to vary to catch people's schedules, but yeah, that's our lineup.
Yeah, and then we have Runa making some lovely art for us here.
Sorry, I'm focused on how the camera hates me.
Does the camera hate you?
Yeah, it does.
Oh no.
Holy fuck.
I'll shout her out then. We have Runa doing some lovely art here. She also did the background and is making us a brand new background, which we're very excited for.
You wanna see it? Sneak
Yeah.
peek?
Yeah.
What?
Sneak
What?
peek,
You
sneak
can't
peek.
do that. That's craziness.
This is our new one.
No, that's our old
This is
one.
our new one.
Liar.
This one.
Yeah. This is what's coming up for us soon.
I'm making a whole set.
Awesome.
Yeah. Also, Yandu said, I'm geeked. We have all 4 adventures for this episode of Talks. Yeah, we have Alex here this time.
I'm a liar.
Yeah.
Okay, so we started late. Let's hop into talking. The very first thing I wanted to talk about, which I've made more than clear, you guys have an Act of God thing with subscribes, which I want to hear how you guys do it. How does that work?
Sure. So it's been a continuous evolution process. Originally, it was if we hit X subscribers this episode, I've written a special event into the episode that will happen. Then later, it became a table that I rolled on. I had a table of the different gods of the world of Anakra, and then there were rows for 10 subs, 20 subs, 30 subs, 40, and 50 subs. And whenever we hit one of those thresholds during a stream, I'd roll, and there'd be a different event or in-game effect associated with each of the deities on that table. I think at the time it was 20 because I wanted to roll 1d20. But now they're all represented by cards. So I've designed cards for most of the deities, and they go, again, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And they're all thematically appropriate. And what I'll do is when a card comes up, it has a specific in-game effect, but also I have creative license to try to weave it into the story.
Yeah.
For example, in the last episode of Book of Dawn Ioth Academy, we had the spontaneous combustion card. And the exact effect of that is a fireball is centered on somebody in the party. But I wove it into the story by having the dragon they were talked to get bored of talking to them and breathe fire on them instead. So there's a little bit of leeway in there because one of the big challenges with the Act of God system is taking whatever chaos just got deployed and thrown into the story and still trying to weave a cohesive narrative.
Yeah.
Recently, we moved from Twitch subs, then we had on Coffee, we had our supporters just like buying an act of God on Coffee, which was a little less expensive for them and a little bit more beneficial for us financially. Most recently, we've moved to something called Stream Loots. So the acts of God become actual digital cards that they can buy, open booster packs, and then they might get a really ridiculously high level one. They might get a low level one. So there's a collectible aspect to it now. But it's all the idea that there are in-game effects that are triggered by our supporters, and they tend to mess up my plans, and that's what supporters love. So
Okay. Mad King Midas followed 2 minutes ago. Thank you very much and welcome. And Mama Shimada said, "Yay gnomes!" in chat as well. So welcome.
Oh, and quick note that I forgot because just with the followers and stuff. For people on there, you guys, I think our link tree pops up, but jump on our Discord. Follow us on Discord and stuff. We're trying to build that community a little bit. But yeah, I really like the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 and just having it kind of reset as you go along. I'm assuming when you hit 50, you go back to 0.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great because that's something that I really like. And I like the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 subs. I think it's like achievable and not like outlandish, and it's also not something that like obviously you might hit 50 in one stream, but it's something that you can kind of see go up over across the week as you're playing, right? It's like, oh, we're at 15, blah blah blah, you know what I mean? And then yeah, that's really cool.
And I think one of the most important parts about it is that it needs to be designed by the dungeon master, because you're the only person who knows what sort of curveballs you can catch, right? So I have other people running games using some of the decks that I've created, the effects that I've created, and sometimes it takes them for a spin, and I always encourage them to curate the effects and design their own so that they'll, no matter what comes up, they'll be able to handle it.
So my question for you then about it is, how do you build the counter into? Does it show up on Twitch like when you're streaming?
Yeah, there's a really easy way to do it on Twitch.
Hold on one second. Can we take this note down quick?
No, we'll ask him later for technical stuff. We'll deal with that later. Also, we had
super easy.
We had somebody mention that Gnomes has a little reverb. Yes, so with the limits of our setup, there will be a little bit of echo from Gnomes. We've minimized it as much as we can.
But yeah, Twitch, there's a built-in. I used to use Streamlabs. They have a subscription counter, but now I just use Twitch has their own built-in one. You can set a goal. You can create a browser source attached to that goal. It doesn't automatically proc at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You still have to have somebody keeping an eye on that. But it does show the bar filling up, and it says Act of God on it and all that stuff.
Yeah, okay. Very cool. So my second question was still about Act of God. What do you like about it, and what do you not like about it, if anything?
What do I like about it? Well, it has created some of the most memorable moments in our campaign. It isn't just sometimes it's just chaos and it just causes everything to sort of unravel, but it's also been so timely at times, and there's been times where that curveball actually made things much, much better. So that's my favorite thing. One of my favorite experiences as a dungeon master is when my players understand the world I've created and its rules and come up with something from that surprises me. And the Act of God is almost like a neutral third party doing that exact thing. So my favorite part about it is that the community really likes it. It lets them feel like their support is having an impact. It gives them a sense of a stake or a sense of ownership in the show. What I don't like about it, I'm constantly tweaking it. And I don't think there's anything on the whole that I dislike about it, but there have absolutely been individual acts of God I've created that I've been like, that needs tuning. That's too disruptive, or it's not rewarding enough. One time I created a custom act of God that would only go off if there was a hype train. And like hype trains go up to level 5, right? So I created this special hype train only 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, except it was hype train level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I thought it would be aspirational. And because I hadn't tweaked the settings for hype trains on the channel, chat blew through it almost instantaneously. It derailed the whole session. It ended up being good, but it was still a mistake on my part.
Right. Okay, very cool. Also, Mama Shimada followed. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you for the follow.
Okay. That was my Act of God questions. The last obvious one. You're fine if I steal this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I encourage people to do it. Good DMs copy. No, yeah, good DMs copy, great DMs steal.
Right. Yeah. I frequently tell people to steal as well, so I like that. I got to steal that one too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's difficult for people in our space to generate revenue of any kind, right? Like if you're in a position where you can pay your cast, your crew anything, or even afford new equipment, it's difficult. The actual play space is completely packed and very competitive, and any way to encourage and especially reward people for their support is something that I think is a good thing.
I just like the interactability. Like I think that really brings people to the thing. Like when I thought about like when I'm watching Twitch, and like the other day we had Runa, and she was just rolling garbage. When I'm watching Twitch, and I see that, I'd happily throw a sub down to like help somebody with a reroll or like help for a counter or just to like shake things up. You know what I mean? Like I think that's something that is needed.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the tricky thing with rerolls and advantage and stuff that's reactive, is that it's all timing based, and the game can move past what the person's like donated to try and help with.
Yeah.
And then you either have to retcon stuff or refund them or to say sorry, bud, and none of that feels good for anyone.
Yeah.
So I like the Act of God stuff that sort of leaves it for the DM to deal with, but it's your contribution to the world because of your support.
Yeah.
We actually also
I
do
like that idea.
the inspiration disadvantage thing. Some of them are Act of God cards because, again, they're collectible now, so those are like the commons. But also you can spend channel points to do those things. And the way that I treat it is it's a resource. So if you have inspiration, you can normally, rules as written, you get one inspiration, you have it or you don't. I let people bank them because there's a limit on how many can be purchased with channel points in one session. So chat might bombard somebody with advantage, or if they really want to razz somebody, just bombard them with disadvantage, and that's like your next X rolls that you have that on. So by banking it, it makes it.
How many channel points is advantage and disadvantage, and how many are they allowed to do per session?
I have it locked at 2 per person, I think, and like 8 to 10 of each reward per session.
8 to 10,000.
No, 8 to 10 like total
iterations of inspiration. Yeah. So like total, people can't give more than either 8, 10, 12, somewhere in that range, because the idea is you want chat to have that ability to mess with things, but you don't want it to become a complete bog down.
So how many channel points do you charge for it?
1,000 for a treasure, 1,000 for a healing boost, which is 2d4 plus 2, 1,400 for inspiration, 1,400 for disadvantage, 8,000 for a short rest.
Oh,
I like this.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
That has been clutch, because then the other thing about that is it really makes chat feel like they're a player at the table, because they can't roll the dice. They're not there, but they can like, oh no, they're going to die. We have to save them. Short rest.
Right.
And they get that visceral impact. The players on stream are usually extremely relieved and grateful. And that's also nice for chat to feel that sense of involvement and that they're appreciated. So it's fun.
Very cool.
I really like that.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, we got lots to talk about on that, but we'll do that off camera.
I guess next question is like what brought you into hold on. What's most on your mind about D&D right now? Like what are you thinking about? What are you currently like going on or learning or doing or like
Also, just before you get to that, we had Peregrine Sands that said, "I'm so invested in this drawing." You're doing great with that.
Welcome, Peregrine.
A fantastic artist in their own right, and an appreciator of the fine arts.
Oh, and they said, please just call me Angie. Will do.
I don't want to get
so
my
yes.
boobs.
Do it.
So sorry.
I fear nothing.
What are you currently thinking about D&D? What are you working on? What are you like learning about?
What's on your mind?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, we're all thinking about one D&D, and I think overall, moving away from editions is positive for the industry. because I am an absolute huge proponent, one might even say addict, when it comes to third-party 5e content.
Right.
Coriander Society, the dimension hopping genre bending campaign, it's practically just an excuse for me to say, oh, I picked up this new rule set for 5e that does sci-fi or steampunk or noir.
Right.
I want to play it. Okay, there's a noir dimension now. We're going to go visit it and play with their rules. So moving towards a more compatibility focused, where there might be iterations over time, but it's not like, guess I have to throw out my whole collection. If that's the direction they're going, then that's a positive direction.
Yeah.
I have a question about that. So
As for what go ahead.
No, that's okay. Continue.
Well, I'm moving on to a different thing, so if you were going to respond to that,
Well, I'm just going to say,
let
in
you get
regards
in
to
on
like
that
rules
first.
compatibility and stuff, we don't get super into it because that's a lot of content. And we just had a stream about it. But have you looked at the new Unearthed Arcana for D&D 1?
I have poked at it. I haven't done a thorough sit down, and
Okay.
the reason for that is, unlike MMOs and such, they can't take 5th edition servers offline, right? Like I have my books. My books are going to stay good. I can use them as long as I want. I could play the same edition for 70 years if I felt like it. So whatever the new rules are, hey, if they're cool, I'll pick them up. If I don't like them, I won't.
Well, the cool thing is all the D&D 5th edition stuff is compatible with it. I was just getting kind of
Right,
like, from
right.
your brief look on it, what do you think?
I think there's some positive stuff in there.
Yeah.
I've been a proponent of customizable heritage ancestry for a while. I've tested a few different systems from the DM's Guild for that. So I think making that baseline is great.
Yeah.
I think feats are cool. I started with 2nd edition, but I played 3.5 most. So, I'm a sucker for feats. I think that's a good direction.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Makes
I have a
sense.
totally normal like of feats.
Yeah, for sure.
Not a problematic.
So we actually got Alex started in my campaign that was Fantasy Craft, which is a 3.5. Like it's made off of the
There's-
same open source.
There's somebody in my community who has played it, and apparently is it even crunchier than 3.5?
It's much
Yeah.
crunchier.
Yes.
And it's so feature based.
sorry.
3.5
I
was
ended
crunchy.
up with a character with like a plus 81 to stealth or something,
Yeah.
and it's just like it's really cool, boring to play, but very fun to be able to make.
So it's a lot
Yeah.
like 3.5 with just like slightly crunchier in some ways, but with less material
Yeah.
to it.
Fewer
And
splat
the,
books.
the thing with Fantasy Crafts, the feats decide your character. Like you could take same race, same class, same background, and play completely differently based on your feats. You'd be completely different characters.
Which to you guys
Good
which
stuff.
haven't played, it would be a lot like a 3.5 fighter.
Yeah, that's the first thing that went into my head is fighters and their feat trees and how that completely redefines them.
What is it? Fighters used to get 11 feats through their character
Yeah,
progression.
something like that, like a bonus feat every
Every
other
second level they
practically.
got a feat, and they got 2 starting feats.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
so next campaign,
You want to go 3.5?
no reason.
No,
God, I'm not playing another.
I'm
fighter.
good. I don't want
I've
to play.
played 3 straight fighters.
I'm good.
I have such fond memories of 3.5, and there's some things about it I absolutely loved. But going
And,
back
yep.
to play, the thought of going back to play it is so onerous.
It's just like, and like, okay, think of it like this. You played 3.5 Paladin? Did you?
He's nodding. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I couldn't
yeah.
see that. How much
My
better?
apologies.
How much better is the 5e Paladin than the 3.5
Oh.
Paladin?
The 5e Paladin slaps the 3.5 Paladin.
The 3.5
5e
Paladin,
Bard
hot
slaps
garbage.
the
The
Bard.
worst.
Yeah, 100%. The Paladin was the Ranger of 3.5.
Oh man,
Yeah.
and like the only thing that good about it was the mount, and even then it was like, I'm like, wow,
was
Climb Greater
clunky, it was
Steed is
weird,
just
like-
the best thing that ever came to the Paladin.
Yeah. I 5e is my favorite, and I had like almost every splat book. I had 2 shelves worth of 3.5 splat books. I
Oh,
had
did you have Tome of
hundreds
Battle?
of prestige. Yes.
The Tome of Battle, the
yes.
broken ass. do you remember
So
the
what's funny
pyrokineticist?
is, at the end of the day, I felt like the Tome of Battle wasn't actually broken. It just made fighters like it made martial classes actually viable,
Real good.
which felt broken. Because the stuff you could do with wizards and casters in 3.5 was absolutely
broken.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like, okay, so
Wizards are dumb.
like
Personal vendetta.
Well, you think wizards are bad? The Thaumaturgist was an expert class which allowed you to
That was a
play
prestige class that got.
a wizard and a cleric, and when you leveled up, you got to take a level in both with like a limited capacity. And then, do you remember the?
Okay, wait. I want to move away from this because I want to be in the conversation.
We can do this all
Just one
day.
more question. Do you remember the pyrokineticist?
From Complete Psionic, I think so.
I think it was. It was like the fire monk who could like shoot
Yeah,
fire
yeah,
and
yeah.
punch people. I played that, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
It was good times.
We have a note, Peregrine. You said you wanted to be called something else, and I lost it.
Angie.
Angie, thank you. Yeah, Angie said, on a more tactical level, I do appreciate the Procreate showcase from Runa. So
Thanks.
usually Angie is working in CSP, so it's a nice change of
Yeah, you
pace.
can really draw something and then erase
And,
it.
uh,
and draw
Clip
again,
Studio
and then erase it.
Paint? I love Clip Studio.
And then somebody also mentioned, let's talk about Thaco. Let's not.
Thaco was a system,
Was a thing.
and it had numbers and dice.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Armor Classic
Moving
0.
on.
I really like Angie. Angie's been watching my art.
Yeah, here for the art. Love it.
I would
Angie's a
watch the art,
phenomenal
but,
artist, so
Good.
Yeah, you hate me?
game
Yeah,
recognized
we
game.
gotta. Angie should hop in the Discord and post some of your art. We'd love to see it. We have an art
Yeah,
page.
please
on
join
there.
the Discord. We're trying to make it more lively.
Yeah. Discord's a lot of fun. Okay, my next question is, what got you into D&D? Did this happen before the Overwatch announcing, or after, or what got you started?
Oh God, I'm turning 35 this year, which means that I will have been playing D&D for about 25 years, I think. My first DM was my mom. She didn't, because she used to play it in high school, and so she ran something with like toys on a chalkboard, and it wasn't the real rules. She was making stuff up. I remember something about a castle, and everyone had been turned into jellies, like turned into slimes. And then my uncle, who used to play D&D with her in high school, was my next DM. And he grew up on first edition, second edition, so we played some of the classic modules. But I started DMing when I was like 11. I wanted to be making the stories. I wanted to be making the dungeons. So it's been a part of my life. It's been my primary hobby and one of my greatest sources of joys for almost, not quite as long as I can remember. As for Casters and Castles, I had wanted to do streaming content, some sort of D&D online content, and I actually did a live stream game with some friends of mine from another community to my own channel, which was, tiny, nobody watched. But I was vocal enough about D&D when I worked for the Overwatch League. So I worked for Blizzard from 2017 till 2020 as an observer in the Overwatch League. So I was backstage in Burbank. I was meeting a lot of different people. I was meeting a lot of the broadcast talent, and I was very verbal and loud, both in person and on Twitter, about my love for D&D. So I was out at a bar after the show, and two of our talent, Bren and Sideshow, came up to me because we were all sort of going out, and they said, "Hey, we want to do D&D stuff, but we're super busy. We don't have time to make adventures. Bren's going to DM, but we know you love this stuff. We know you're a good DM. Do you want to write a campaign for us?" And that's how Casters and Castles got started.
Okay.
That's cool.
So for the first season, I was like behind the scenes writing the adventures, giving them to Bren, and then from the second season on, I was the primary DM.
Yeah. Very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say shout out to your mom, because honestly, DMs have been making stuff up since 1968, and it ain't never changed. Fudging. But yeah, I had a quick question for you, because you said you worked for Blizzard. Did you ever get to meet Artosis or
No,
Rotterdam?
I never got to meet Artosis.
Okay, did you ever get to meet Rotterdam?
No, I
okay.
didn't really cross circles with much of like StarCraft.
Okay.
Those the titans of that esport.
Okay.
Because by the time Overwatch League was a thing, StarCraft esports still going there was a really iconic moment at BlizzCon 2018 or 2019 when somebody won. It was like the first time that a non-Korean player had won the grand tournament at BlizzCon,
Yeah, I watched
either
it.
ever or in a long time.
Yeah.
So I was there for that, but other than that, the two esports programs didn't cross paths much.
Oh, they didn't. Okay, makes sense. I just thought it'd be cool, because I love those guys.
It'd be cool. Yeah, legends of the sport.
Also, Briggsy Cakes, I butchered that, but thank you for the follow. Welcome. Nice to meet you.
Appreciate it. Follow the Discord. Check it out.
I
Briggsy.
didn't get started as young as you, which I'm sad about. I was from a small town, so we didn't have, like, D&D wasn't talked about. The only thing you heard about it was, like, to make fun of people, like, oh, you probably play Dungeons and Dragons. And that was the most I knew about Dungeons and Dragons as a
Because then
kid.
it was the punchline.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
so
and I
dumb.
didn't even know what it meant. Like, had no idea of it. And then me and a buddy watched an episode of Community. If anybody remembers, it's not that old, but we watched an episode of Community where they played D&D and they played, I think, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And so we watched that episode, and knowing nothing but was what in that episode, we were like, let's write a rules book to play Skyrim like that. So
Let's go.
to tell you how little we know, we didn't even know you were supposed to roll dice. So we built a system. We spent, I think, 30 or 40 hours making a system with class trees and advancement that played like Skyrim. And if you attacked, you just hit, because we didn't understand that dice were a part of this sport.
Right, the
And we
randomization.
played that. We got a bunch of friends and ran that and took turns running it, and it fell apart because it was so point and click. Like, you just attacked, and you did a set amount of damage on depending what you cast, and it was just resource management.
That's funny.
That was my
Right,
first
right.
experience with D&D, and then I read
went
the
straight
Fantasy
to
Craft
building it
rulebook
yourself.
and fell in love. I missed what you said. Say that again?
You went straight from zero to designing your own system. That's
Yes.
fantastic.
Yeah.
See, it's interesting. So for me, my first experience with D&D was D&D 3.5 at Nate, and when I was going to school at Nate, it was we had 63 people in the D&D club, and it was 5 different campaigns of 3.5, and one of them was Pathfinder. But then I remembered that when I was a young kid, like I'm talking like 8, 10 years old, up until I was probably 15, I played D&D, but it wasn't technically D&D because it was my buddy's brother, and he ran his own world, and it was like Sephiroth was the villain. We fought a bunch of people.
Good stuff.
Like my buddy played a penguin named Waddle who had lightsabers. Like Tifa and Cloud and like all those different. Aragon was in it. Like all of the characters from all of the shit we played were just smashed into it, and it was great and it was hilarious. And then I realized I'm like, okay, yeah, never mind. I've been playing D&D since I was like 8 or 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about it, right? It's almost intuitive, aside from all the dice and the things that look like tax forms, because it's a form of play we've all engaged in at some point, just with more structure.
Yeah.
Well, I started in university because someone I used to follow online who became problematic, which is sad, but had a
happens.
like RP show thing, and I really liked it. It wasn't like they made their own system, and it was very like RP just goofing around in character, and I wanted to do that, so I just like asked around and ended up at a game that Isaac was running, and then just
Nice.
haven't left and haven't
Yep.
been forced out yet. So
You won't be forced out. Don't worry about that.
they have no idea what I have planned.
Yeah.
Also, Angie said, I look away every bit to try and find stuff on Twitter, and this Disco Gnome has evolved so far. Don't look away. You blink, you miss it.
Also, like people in chat, like feel free to post your guys' how you guys got into D&D and all that kind of thing. We'd love to hear that from more people.
Yeah.
But
Runa, how'd you get into D&D?
So, I went to like a pride thing, and I met a person, and they were pretty cool. Like, we were protesting, and then I was like, yeah,
Nice.
wow, I don't know why we're talking about D&D, but I like D&D, and they're like, oh, I know who to hook you up with, and I was like, okay.
I get a Facebook message.
And then no. Then it goes to Squidney, and I'm like, hey, and they're like, yeah, I heard you wanted to be I heard you wanted to do D&D, and I was like, yeah, and then they were like, here's this person that
Wait,
you've
there
never
was
met.
another intermediary?
And they're like, here's Isaac, my roommate, and I was like,
oh shit,
yeah,
you met up with what's her face?
Aster,
And Aster put you to Sid. Oh.
and then-
I didn't realize there was another intermediary.
I was introduced to Isaac, and I was like, I was sitting there with my phone in front of me looking at Adventure Corp, and I was like, I don't know how to message them. I have no idea how to message this man.
Well, that's right. It didn't even come to my personal Facebook. It came to
Yeah,
Adventure Corp, like our...
Because Squidney
to the-
never told me how to message you. They gave me a Facebook to Adventure Corp, and I was just stuck there. And I was like, I'm supposed to do D&D, maybe? And then I was so good, they never got rid of me.
Yeah, I had her on. I was like, I have no space in any of my games. But you can come and play an episode or two on one of my at-home games. She came, and I was like, okay, no, she's so good at improv. She's so good at being in character. Please come play with us. I don't care that you don't know what you're doing.
We'll
And
make it
I've
work.
been here for a year now.
Yeah.
I've been playing
Congrats.
D&D for a year, and only with Isaac Alexander.
It's the crazy thing about D&D is know-how is so little of like what makes the game fun.
Yeah.
So, question
Yeah.
for you, just
100%.
kind of, what's like your most proud moment in D&D?
It's hard to narrow it down to one. The occasions where I have made my players cry, I flag those, player tears. And it's never like I was so cruel. It's more that the story moved them to tears. I always consider that a success.
Or a character mattered to them.
Yeah, the story moved them, a character mattered to them. They were able to connect with the story in that way. A lot of the games that I run are very jokey, very comedic. Like it's not like the story itself has, I'm not bringing the lightsaber wielding penguin into things. It's just that the conversation tends to go towards memes and joking and shitposts and such. So when I am able to execute a serious moment, I'm very proud of that. I got to run a game for Mika Burton. I'm happy with that. That makes me happy. And at the end of that campaign, Bren did something that came completely out of left field, has had long-reaching consequences in my campaign world, and I was able to roll with it. And so that sort of stuff is also, well, it makes me happy. The only thing that makes me happier than that is, like I said, when my players have figured out my world and they surprise me with my own lore. That's just my favorite.
Yeah. I also, on the same note as that last bit, one of my favorite things of having run D&D for a number of years now is how my world changes from past campaigns and stories. We had a moment in Adventure Corp where the city was getting so invaded that the Thieves Guild that all of the players were a part of was like, no, like the guild house is shut down. We're going underground. It's like council members only into guild meetings. And I went before that episode happened and talked to my character, one of my old players whose character retired now runs the Thieves Guild. And I was like, are you going to show up? Like, are you going to come in for a second? What happens? He's like, no, it's not at the point where I need to step in. This is what I would do. I love that stuff.
I love that. Legacy, living history, that it's hard to get that from much else.
Well, that's one of the things on my mind a lot when I'm trying to improve my D&D is like, what does D&D do that no other medium can do? And I think that's one of the best parts is that legacy, as you put it.
So actually, though, this ties in well. I had a really good conversation with someone the other day, and it might have been you, Isaac. I can't remember who it was, but we were talking about books to film and how we're usually upset with how the film is when the book adaptation goes in.
Yeah, that was me.
And it was coming in from the conversation of what does the medium that a book does, what does the medium that a film does, and it's instead of like coming from this place of one's better than the other and feeling disappointed, is taking each one and what can it do better or different or more impactful than the others, and putting the exactly right. So
yeah, look for what they do well instead of like, oh, they missed this whole part. Yeah, they missed that part because it was everyone talking in their head.
So stop.
It would have been a
jam
bad
stuff in
choice.
D&D that. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just agreeing with you. A good adaptation doesn't just lockstep with the original source material. It takes it and does what it's best at.
Yeah.
And it exemplifies and it adds to and brings more, right? So it's like, one of the things would be like, stop trying to jam stuff into D&D that doesn't fit or doesn't take sense or work into D&D. Take the things that work into D&D, lean into them, and make it build a story around what the other things could bring to it.
Yeah, that like looking at it from that perspective radically changed the way I run D&D from like hyper planned out dungeons with like every room mapped to like how the less I put into making a dungeon map, the more I can react to people's decisions, which is what D&D does better. If I want to run through a map, I'll play a board game because that's what they do better.
And it's a better management of your resources. Like instead of having to worry about the entire dungeon looking cool, you role play through the parts of the dungeon,
Yeah, you get the
and then
feeling.
you have more effort. If I want to make one battle and one room and the people and things that are in that room very cool and very detailed and very in depth, I have more energy to do that.
Also,
A set piece.
Set piece, yeah, that's a good word for it. Also, Alsa's Acer followed 10 minutes ago, and Leg Day Gaming 7 minutes ago. Thank you very much. Welcome. Nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you.
Also, continue.
No.
Thanks. Those are my glasses. My star glasses. They complement my glasses.
Leg
The
day,
gnome, I'm loving the chest hair on the gnome.
He also has poofy
Leg day gaming.
Afro.
You said leg day gaming is
Yeah,
following.
yeah.
I love it because you have time to game because you're skipping leg day. That's my guy. Atta bro.
He has like a little afro.
Yeah, I love this disco gnome so much.
Okay, so here's a question for you then, gnomes. What's working in D&D for you right now, and what's not?
Tough question. See, we put this on the list, and I was like, oh.
You know it's good when you throw it up there and you're like, yeah, that is good. So
Yeah.
one of the things about my DMing, I currently have no campaigns that I'm running that are not streamed.
Ooh.
That are not what,
it's
sorry?
Not streamed.
Streamed, yeah.
Yeah.
All the games that I'm running, because I'm running 2 games a week, and
Okay.
I'm producing other games with different DMs on the channel.
Yeah.
So I haven't run a game that's just like at home, sitting around the table, snacks and beer and all that stuff for, God, it feels like a year, a couple of years.
Right.
Yeah.
So things that are working for me is leaning into what the players do and rolling with that. That is, I've been trying to do that more and more. It's definitely working for me. Just following their interests and pulling those threads. What's not working for me is, I don't necessarily think this isn't working for me, but it is one of my bad habits as a DM. So as much as role-playing and storytelling and narrative are the heart of the experience, I'm also a sucker for mechanics. And I'm especially a sucker for like mechanics that sit on top of D&D, like running a barony or trading, or all those little mini game modules that you kind of stick onto it. And I have in the past gotten so excited about that and implemented them into my campaigns without first gauging whether or not the players would be interested in it and find it fun, because I was so in the weeds with it. And it is a constant threat that I have to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
Would you like to comment?
We're very similar. I actually I took a game system, Adventure Conqueror King, which is based on first edition, and they came at creating a system from let's make an economy and build everything from there, so everything makes sense. And
Nice.
it has all sorts of rules for building a realm of your own, building like she has a gladiator ring that she runs and trains her gladiators and sends them out to fights, and we name them after our followers. And we have a list of dead followers. Alex runs a Thieves Guild out of the same rules. Daniel's Wizard Tower comes from the same rules with apprentices and stuff. I love that shit.
Well, let's comment though. We had that system. We've also taken that system and heavily modified it because it didn't work.
Yeah.
So it's always the conversation of finding something that you think is cool, testing it, coming in, seeing what works, and then modifying it to fit, kind of thing.
Yeah. I didn't have the same problem you had, but we come from the same breadth there. Yes, Alex?
I don't know. I had what's working in D&D for me is talking to my dungeon master about like everything, because nothing feels worse in D&D than like having this really cool idea and then trying to do it in game and having your DM like say something that either makes sense or you think is dumb, but either way, like, your cool idea doesn't work, and you don't find out until you're trying to do it in-game, and there's no going back. So I've started just, like, whenever I have a thing I want to like happen or want like a direction I want to go, I'll just talk to Isaac about it, and then like we always end up with a cool thing that I'm like I can be a lot safer in getting excited for, because the person who's in charge of the way the world will respond is like aware of it and has time to figure out what's gonna happen and whether it'll work.
Yeah, and if there's something that is flawed or something that you're not considering when you pose that, the thing is, a good DM gets excited about your ideas, right?
Yeah,
like if you're thinking about the game, they're like, okay, how about we compromise here? You negotiate things out to come up with the coolest thing. A good DM should absolutely be a collaborator and a co-conspirator with their players. So that is a great point you made.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. So we played a home game on Saturday. And this home game, we tried something where we had all of the characters level 0, where they had known each other from the beginning. And it was cool in some ways, and it was a really good experiment. But what I learned is that I don't want to play D&D like that. And I thought about it, and I realized why. Because what's cool about having like the same backstory and everything and all that, and like knowing the characters and everything is cool. Like you guys have a common thing, but then you also realize that other than that common thing, you don't really have a lot of other stuff. And the other thing that you don't have is any surprise, any
there's no discovery,
mystery, any discovery. There's nothing cool that happens between the characters because they know everything.
Yeah, I think my big takeaway from that was, I think it was like we started with them as children at level 0, and by the end of their childhood arc, they all had 10s in stats, and then when they got to level 1, they got their starting stats. And really, really cool for a short campaign. But we played it to level 18 or 17.
Level 5.
So,
wow.
So it just was too long without enough variety in it, and then it was compounded that we were also doing a low magic setting, which I also think can be very fun, but limits you for a longer form campaign. It's what I tend to run.
Yeah, level 5 is like level 5, maybe level 8.
It's just pixelated.
Best.
Yeah.
Change it.
So so working and not working, I want to take a stab at. I think the main thing, like, and not so much in my games, but not working for me right now, is I read the Fate Core rulebook and had this, like, awakening about what's good about tabletop role-playing games, and saw a bunch of areas that D&D, like, in my mind, missed the mark on it. My primary example being, like, at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters in D&D is hit points, because any problem can turn into a fight. So if a consequence in another realm of play, like exploration or intrigue, doesn't affect your hit points, you can just turn it into a fight, and you might as well have not done it, unless it takes somebody out of the combat or puts them in. And whereas Fate has consequence, and you can gather consequences from any style of play, whether it's exploring something or taking a hit or getting your ego bruised in a conversation, and you only have so many consequence slots. So everything like plays into each other, and the whole game's important. And I'm like, I need to get that into my game, and it doesn't fit. And I can't do it on stream. I don't want to introduce it on stream and have all of the like playing with it and fixing it on stream. So I need to test run it in my home games, and it's that's my big problem in D&D at the moment, is how do I make that work?
So there are a couple of social combat systems on the DM's Guild. I never ended up using them because they are basically just taking the combat rules and porting them into conversations, which I mean, it's a nice thought, and you could run a campaign around that, but it would have to be the debate in the Royal Court campaign. Adding it on top of the kick in the door, kill the monsters, take their stuff rule set.
Yeah.
That being said, I have a project I'm working on that's probably going to see the light of day in March. And it heavily focuses on survival, crafting, and settlement building. And it has rules to deal with non-hit point consequences of things like being out in the wilderness, working too hard, that kind of stuff.
So to comment on that, because I also talk with Isaac quite a bit about these things, I think there are tools in D&D that help with these things, and I just takes I'm a bit of a devil's advocate when it comes to this, because I don't think everything has to be solved with a system. I think homebrew is so powerful, and there's rules and tools that are given that deal with things. Like, for example, exhaustion is a great mechanic, and you can just give people exhaustion when things come up. You're in a survival situation, and you did something like that, boom, exhaustion. Now it makes it harder. You have to rely on your party to help you, different things. I also don't think that hit points apply. I think hit points apply when you're in combat and you're aware. I think if you're sleeping in bed and someone comes up and rams a dagger into your throat while you're sleeping, you don't have hit points.
Oh, yeah.
You're on death saves. Hopefully your friends are around.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a time and a place for hit points.
Yeah.
I think if you're drunk in your stupor and you can't defend yourself, that's another time where hit points probably don't matter. Who cares about your AC when you're hammered and can't block a blow?
Yeah, no, my main thing I've been struggling with around it is D&D, the meat and potato. Like, if you wanted to weigh out the pages, the heaviest pile you have is based around combat. Like, that's where most of the work went into. Most of your features are based around it, and so that's what the game is going to tend towards, because that's where players actually have options to do cool things. You don't, besides rolling a skill check, there's not a lot built in to do in a social interaction. And whatever you do is probably going to boil down to a skill check by the way the rules are made, which doesn't dovetail well into a system that makes things affect each other, because when things tend towards combat, you need to have things affect combat. But there are absolutely moments where it's not about the hit points, and where exhaustion and stuff works. I'm trying to fit in something that's more diverse and connects all of the pieces of play. So I'm very interested in what you're coming up with. If I could get a sneak peek or even a not sneak peek, tell me when it's coming out. I'm very interested.
So it's not my system. I'm working with the publisher of this system. And what I'm doing is I've been posting about this a little bit on Twitter. I want to put together a cross-channel West Marches survival game.
It's kind of like Runes of Inethra.
I haven't actually seen that or heard of that.
Okay, Runes of Inethra is a new thing that D&D released where they give you a setting in a world, and they do it at like game shops. So basically you have a setting in a world, and everybody builds, and it's a random character generator. And you start at level 1, and you can come to the store and you can play with whoever you want to play. But it's the same world, and all the DMs can DM in the same world. And it doesn't change. And so you could be playing with like a level 18 character, level 9 character, level 1 character, and it could be across multiple shops if you want to. It's probably not exactly the same, but it's a similar type thing.
It's very close. It's very close. In this model, there's one map, multiple DMs.
Okay.
They all have access to the map. There's, like I said, the concept is that you're going to end up stranded in this land. You start at level 1. All you have is your gear. Your starting gear, there is no civilization.
Okay.
If you want civilization, you have to build it. So, but it would be that, like, when people want to play, they would put together a group from the entire pool of players drawn from all the participating channels. They would find out which DM has time to run the adventure they want to do. Like, hey, we want to go into the swamp and check out that ruined temple we found. They link up with one of those DMs. That DM's channel gets to stream the game, but it's all persistent. It's all part of the same ongoing story. So if they go out and they bring back supplies to town, the town has more supplies.
It reminds me of the thing, Isaac, you were telling me about, where you have like multiple campaigns going at once at different levels.
Oh, that's fun too. Yeah. Yeah, I'm different note, but to speak of that, I'm thinking of running for my at-home game, taking their starting characters, playing till about level 10, and then making new characters, because I like to have more downtime. So while they're level 10 characters, it's only every so often something worthy of a level 10 character comes up. So while nothing's coming up, we'll start new characters at level 3 or whatever, and you play them till about level 8, and then you start new characters, and in the downtime between things, you're playing different characters, and then you switch to the higher level characters when something in the world, because it's happening concurrently, comes up that is at their level. You might even have the lower level group.
Threat.
Yeah. And you might even have the lower level group going and telling the higher level group of, like, we found this thing we can't deal with. Like, come in and please deal with this. We thought this temple was great until the death bolts started flying, and coming back like that. And you end up with one, like, high level party all the way down. And the onus is on your players not to, baby their character, not favor their characters when they're being other people.
Right,
I thought it'd be fun.
So, yeah.
It's fun.
It's interesting because or some of that West Marches and stuff like this is it gives an opportunity where, let's say you have a character's level 10, 2, 5, and 7 playing. Well, that level 2 character better be careful.
You like it?
Right? And it's like, you can make it as deadly as you want kind of thing, but it's interesting.
You get that dynamic you don't see very often in D&D, and is hard to execute in D&D without causing social problems, of Aragorn traveling with the hobbits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, I love that dynamic. Like, we've done a bunch of one-shots when people are away, and I've encouraged people to play different level characters for the one-shots. I think Alex did it, like, with a lower level character. It is a fun dynamic, and you're right. Oh, kitten! Oh, it's so small. But yeah,
Sorry, carry on.
Meow! Meow! Meow.
You get this fun dynamic that I don't think works long-term. Without the perfect group for it, but is very fun to step into once in a while.
It also brings some ideas like playing like what Isaac was saying there about having like different characters in your stuff, like especially on stream. Like once you've played a few campaigns and you have a world that has characters, like I'm excited to I play a character who's a level 18 wizard right now, to be like start a new campaign and play another character and then get to make a guest. Like I get to play my other character when it pops
I'm
up.
assassinating Barry in next campaign. First thing.
If you make a character whose whole life goal from level 1 to 20 is to assassinate this one fucking
You've turned
wizard.
away apprentices. I'm just gonna play one of them. Who goes,
Okay, we've got
The
1
full
minute,
Riceland on
Gnomes. I want to turn it over to you. Is there anything else you want to say? Anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to shout out?
I really appreciate you folks taking the time to have me on the show. I kind of already did my shout out. If you're looking for me, I've got Tormented by Gnomes on almost all platforms. Castles and Castles, search for us. We're on most of the major platforms. Always happy to hang out with other folks in the community.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming. And yeah, Dan, go ahead.
And yes, thank you for coming. We appreciate this. We'll let you guys know who's coming next on Adventure Talks. Please come check out Castles and Castles channel. Come check out Adventure Corp. Come check us out on all our stuff. The other thing I wanted to say is, do you play Overwatch?
I haven't played Overwatch in a long time, but
Lucky.
a lot of people in my community play Overwatch.
Okay, well, tell your community we play Overwatch.
We play a lot.
And we're actually going to be playing some of that in our voice channels on our Adventure Corp Discord. So if they ever want to come get to know us and play some Overwatch and come check out the Discord, come check it out.
As long as you don't mind us at our worst and angriest, it's a great way to get to know us.
So here's what I'm hearing you say. What I'm hearing you say is pugs. 6v6.
Oh
Custom.
yeah,
Absolutely. You know what? If we could get enough people together for like a 6v6 like
definitely.
set it up. Absolutely.
Easy.
They can probably reliably get 4 or 5 people. 4 people maybe. So if we could get a group like that, that would be huge.
Yeah.
And get them all in the Discord and
Perfect.
Okay, folks.
We'll set
that's
it
what
up.
we have time for. One last look. Runa, do you have anything to say?
I was about to say, did you end it without
No.
trying?
I want to look at this last. This is what we got done here. The chest hair and the mustache are the highlight for me. Although those glasses are a close second.
What's his name?
Oh, what do we have to name him?
We have to name him.
We have to name him.
Gnomes, you got something?
I want to hear chat too.
Yeah. What are we naming our disco
What are we
gnome?
naming
Chat.
Disco Gnome?
Chat, help me out here.
Yeah.
Barry?
I'm trying to think
No,
of a
no.
gnome.
I like Thibbledorf or Thibbledorf.
Disco Gnomes. Chris.
Why does Bartholomew come to mind?
Looks like a Greg.
Bartholomew?
To me. Disco Man. Matt.
Matt? I love
Disco
it.
Man Matt.
That's it.
Wait,
Okay.
wait, wait,
It's got
I
Disco
got it
Man
right.
Matt.
got
I
it
like
right.
it.
Okay.
I like it.
Right on.
Okay, well, she's writing that in, folks. Thank you very much for joining us. Gnomes, thank you so much. You were a pleasure to have on. I look forward to stealing everything we talked about and maybe talking more about the thing you're helping develop, if I can be of any assistance there.
If you join our Discord, you will get the final.
The final version. Yeah.
Ooh, that's an incentive.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
We love you all, and we're going to our ending soon screen. We are gonna run. We're gonna raid somebody. So stick around
The
for
Disco
that.
Man Matt. Sorry,
Disco-
chat. The Disco
All right.
Man.
Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.